Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu olam shehakol nitbarech.
Amen.
Okay, welcome, folks. Chaim l'chaim v'bracha. Oh, beautiful. Okay. So, happy Zayin Cheshvan, the seventh day of the month of Cheshvan, Mar Cheshvan. And we will conclude the Sikha, the talk of the Rebbe that we started yesterday. Briefly go through it. 7th of Cheshvan is the day that you start asking for rain in the land of Israel, specifically in the land of Israel. Not outside of Israel. Outside of Israel, in the blessing where we ask for our livelihood, there we only begin to make the request December the 5th or the 6th if it's a leap year. Leap year meaning an extra day in the Gregorian calendar. So, and why would they start asking for rain then? Because everybody who came to the Holy Temple to celebrate the holiday, Sukkot, Shmini Atzeres, Simchas Torah, left, and the last person to go back all the way to the Euphrates came home, and as a result, now's the time to ask for rain. You're back home safely. And back in the day, they would travel, not horse and buggy. They traveled on foot. Interesting way. I mean, maybe they did go horse and buggy, but still, if it was muddy, it'd be difficult to get back. So, furthermore, it was as if the holiday was still upon them. The holiday continued, even though they're right. So the Rebbe brings a principle that's brought from one of the commentators, the Shalah, that says that every occurrence that happens, a special occurrence, right, as this date, it's reflected in the Torah portion. The Rebbe takes this as a fundamental teachings. It's got to be reflected in the Torah portion. So the question is how? Lech Lecha speaks about the command of God for Abraham to leave the Euphrates, Mesopotamia, and go to Israel. And here it's the opposite. You're going from Israel, from Jerusalem, from the Holy Temple, and you're going back home. So it seems to be an opposite journey. So we answered the first answer we gave, well, simply, the divine intent of creation is to make a dwelling place for God. And therefore, going back to your home after having the experience of being close up and in front of godliness, the intent is go back home, unpack it all, and now use all of that inspiration, all of that holiness, and now make your environment holy. Make a dwelling place for God in your material life, not just in your spiritual life, in your material life. That's the intent. Well, that's what Lech Lecha is really all about. Lech Lecha is about, that, Lech Lecha means, to go and for yourself to be exalted living. That's what God's commanding Abraham. Well, that's what you're doing, an exalted living by living in a material world and exalting it. So, and that happens on the 7th of Cheshvan when everybody's home and everybody now is there to fulfill the Dir B'Tachtenim, to making a dwelling place for God in a material, physical world. The Rebbe is not satisfied with that because, in a literal sense, it's still not, one's going to Israel and one is leaving. One's going to the Holy Land and one's leaving the Holy Land. So the Rebbe then explains as follows. In life, there's two different ways to lead your life. You can see yourself as a hired worker, right? God created the world, and you're his hired worker. He gave you the material world, and you're a hired worker. Hired worker works for themselves. Yes, they're hired by someone. So God hired you, but it's for yourself. Ultimately, why you're working. Or an emissary, a shliach, an agent, a representative, emphasis is who you're representing, who you're an agent of, who you are an emissary of is the emphasis. And hence, um, you go, a representative or an agent goes to a far place as opposed to a worker works primarily close at hand to who they're working for, right? We're going to see this as a metaphor in a moment. Um, and you are primarily there for the sake of for yourself when you're working for someone. But when you're an agent, the emphasis is of the you're an agent of someone. You're representing that someone. You're an emissary, shliach. So that's the distinction over here. When you're in front of God in Jerusalem, it's primarily you're taking it in. It's a spiritual high, and the focus is about you and you know soaking in, basking in the holiness, right? That's what it is. So, however, when you go back to a distant place, right? So that's like the worker working for themselves, working for yourself over here for your own holiness. Right? That's amazing. It's not a put down. It's just an understanding of you know of the nature of spirituality is about you bringing in the spirituality, soaking it in, which is wonderful. Better than soaking in the sun in in Mexico. You're soaking in the godliness in Jerusalem next to God, up in front there. As opposed to when you go back to your home, you're not soaking it in anymore. What are you doing then? Well, you're doing what God wants. You're an emissary of God, of bringing all that has been soaked into you, and now um, exalting your environment, your materiality, uplifting it. Ah, so that then is a different lech lecha, right? Because lech lecha means a complete changeover. Lech lecha How is it connected more? Because God says to Abraham, actually, sorry, before God said to Abraham, Lech lecha, go. He was 75 years old at the time. He was already engaged for decades in promoting the oneness of God, morality to humanity around him. And he had a lot of adherents. And yet it's only after Lech lecha, God says, that it says that he called out in the name of God. Till then, he did it based on his own understanding. Well, actually, let me back up for a moment. Yeah, he did it on his own. Now he does it because it's a command of God. Before Lech Lecha, before this Torah portion, again, Abraham was a very devoted man to God, but it was based on him, on his understanding, his recognition, right? His feeling of closeness to God, which is wonderful. But Lech Lecha brings to a whole different level. It's not based on him. It's based on God's command. This is what I want you to do. I want you to um, get close to, I want you to bring people close to me. I want you to um, take the message and bring it to all of humanity. But now it's my command. It's what I want. In other words, till then, it's what he wanted, which is wonderful. How wonderful is it that everybody would want to connect to God. Everybody wants to bring other people closer to God. And that's what you want. But Lech Lecha means, something more. It's a command of God. Mm. So in other words, it's not coming from your own recognition, your own importance that you give to it, which is wonderful. But now God's giving the importance. He's commanding it, right? So that's the idea of when we are in a holy place, we feel the holiness, we appreciate it, and we're there to soak it in. God, that's about us. It's wonderful, but it's not Lech Lecha, not fulfilling the mandate. The mandate is God commands. This is what he wants. This is what he needs from me. Ooh. So it's based on him, not on me. Now, let's take this a step further, and we can see it so clearly in the first words of the Torah portion. God says to Abraham, first time he's revealing himself to him in communicating to him. Again, he was totally devoted for decades. This is the first time. God says, Lech lecha. Yemar Hashem el Abram. And Hashem spoke to Abraham, Lech lecha, go for yourself, leave. Lech lecha me'artzecha, leave your land, meladcha, and your place of birthing, u'mebeis avicha, and from your father's home. And where should you go? El ha'aretz asher arecha, to the land that I will show you. Doesn't even say yet. Which land? Say which land. So he's going to Canaan, which will be the future Israel. Not even saying that to him. Why? Further question. If you leave your land, right, meaning your country, haven't you left your place of birthing and your father's home? So it seems to be in an opposite way. First, it should say leave your father's home, then leave your place of birthing, which is the region, right? And then leave your country. But it says the opposite. So Chassidus explains a deeper understanding of what this means. It's not just poetic license here. It means as follows. L'chaim. L'chaim. means on a deeper level. The word eretz, land, comes from the word ratz, to run. The land runs. And it also from the same word as ratzon, which means will. So the land runs to do the will of God. There's a unique thing about the land that you don't find anywhere else. You take a seed, it rots, and it grows into something, fruit-bearing tree or a tomato plant. It's an example of something from nothing. It's only an example because it rots the seed, right? So it's almost like nothing. It's not real nothingness, but it's a sampling of the idea of the true power of God in the land. So the concept of God's will is expressed in the land. Not that everyone wanted people to be farmers because there's a real connection in the land to godliness. In any case, the idea over here is the word land is connected to will. So God is saying, go, leave your will. Then he's saying, Maladcha, leave your place of birthing, which is your nature. Your nature. Because that's what happens in a place where you're born, is the nurturing that you have there that develops your nature. So leave your will, leave your nature, your natural or your natural instincts, shall we say, or developed instincts better of character quality. And then Beis Avicha refers to intelligence of father is Chachma, and bias is Bina. Without going, father gives the seed of the child, which the seed of intelligence, which is connected with intelligence of the person. The seed of intelligence is Chachma, and bias is Bina. Bina is understanding. So wisdom and understanding. So God is saying like this. No, God is saying, leave your will, your nature, and your intelligence, and go to where I'm going to show you. Now, what was wrong with his will? His will was only to connect to God. His character qualities were impeccable. Embodiment of kindness. His intelligence, he perceived and came to understand and know that there's a God like no one else did. Leave that? Yes, leave it because it's based on you. It's based on you want to connect to me. You want to be kind. You want to understand me, which is great. That's not the definition of a Jew. And this is the first Jew and the first encounter that God's giving a definition of a Jew. It has to be El Arz Asherach, to the land that I will show you. In other words, base it on me. Base your connection and your desire, your good character qualities and your perception, not because you've come to it based on you, but ultimately come to it because so I have commanded, so I have shown you that this is the way. I just base it on God, not base it on you. This is very powerful. Base it that you are an emissary of mine. An emissary is completely nullified to the one that sent them. They are only a representative. Now, that doesn't mean to negate that you understand and appreciate and feel and want goodness and you want godliness and you want a divine life. Doesn't mean to negate it. It means to say Don't base it on it. Base it on the fact, right, that I'm showing you the path, that God is showing you the path. And this affects then on a person that you become an emissary of God. You become a representative. You become, right, totally connected, a limited human being to the divine, and you become, in that sense, a divine entity. And then you'll be able to truly bring godliness to this world. Now that you just sense that you are nothing else but a reflection of the divine. And yes, you appreciate it. Yes, you understand it. Yes, you want it. And yes, you feel it. But it, as a result, because you are it. That's the difference. All right, folks. Very powerful.
Thank you.
So that we all are taking from the holidays now, going back into our day-to-day activity. You know, what God needs from me, wants from me, commands of me is to take everything on, unpack it, and our environment of everybody that we can touch. And what God needs from me and gives me the power that I am his representative, that I can affect and change people and inspire them to lead a more godly life.